Hey guys, I just wanted to show you my MGE settings real quick, and I'm not going to explain everything and how it works because I want to keep this video kind of short. Make sure you have the newest version of Morrowind graphics extender. I have Rev 178. There's a DLL file that will change the Rev to 187. I don't use this because it's made for Morrowind overhaul and it changes the water greatly. So make sure when you're using Morrowind Overhaul, patch 1.2 and patch 1.3, you make sure you check the setting for Rev 178 and not 187. Leave these settings how they are pretty much. Global settings, you're going to set your resolution to the max resolution of your screen, or if you're lagging a lot, you can try dropping it just a little bit. I recommend your native resolution, however. AA level. Obviously, the higher it is, the better it's going to look. The lower it is, the more jaggy all the textures and whatnot are going to look. But it's going to save you a lot of FPS troubles. The higher resolution, the less necessary it is. So at 1920 by 1200, I find 4x AA to be plenty. 8x should be plenty for anything lower, really, and everything higher is just if you have an amazing system that can run it. Render state. Everything in here except for two things you're going to have set the same way I do. So make sure you set it up like this. AF level. I don't feel like explaining it, but just pretty much the same way the AA level is. Obviously, the higher it is, the more FPS hit you're going to have. I find 4x AF to be good enough. I do wish I could go higher, but with my system, that is as high as I can go. Field of view is dependent on your resolution. You'll have to just figure out what works for you. Input tab. Put the input lag fix on if you have a problem with your mouse and keyboard. Skip opening movie, I would turn that on because that disables that Bethesda logo coming up right in the beginning of opening Morrowind. Miscellaneous tab. Make sure everything's set up like I do, and I would never ever use this keep FPS constant. Morrowind INI. Everything here is well, not everything here is preference. These two, make sure you have these clicked on. Allow yes to all and thread loading. Hit fader, subtitles, and high detail shadows are all preference. High detail shadows are not really that high detail. They were back when Morrowind came out, but now they don't look that great, and they give you a large FPS hit. If you can live without them on, I would do so. I like them, but they're not necessary. Tools, we're just going to mess with the shader editor and the distant land file creation wizard. So, shader editor, you're going to click Edit Active Chain. This screen will pop up to set the active shaders. If you have Morrowind Overhaul, it comes with these first 6. I prefer these ones that I have here, and I'll show you how to download these 3. And then I also use the playable depth of field from Morrowind Overhaul. I will have all of these in a little file to download eventually. Underwater blur and water wobble, I only have those turned off because I was debugging something at the time. You can turn those on and put those underneath the playable depth of field. Click save and validate at the bottom here, and then you're going to exit out. Now for the land file creation wizard. First thing you want to do is you want to get these grass directories working, because that will give you animated grass, and it'll also save you from getting duplicate grass appearing all over the place. So, plugin directories. By default, this folder will be C, program files or program files x86, Bethesda Softworks, Morrowind, data files, grass. Basically, if you know where your data files are, you're just going to click the grass folder in there. You'll do this by clicking add, and of course, data files, grass, then click OK, and then click save. Then you're going to make sure everything here is checked. You can do so by pressing select all, and you'll click continue. All these settings here are just what work for me. You can go higher if you wish. Obviously, higher is a bigger FPS hit. This is where my computer seems to be able to handle it. It is definitely not the sweet spot. I'm still tweaking it myself, but this seems to work for me. So, here we go. Static size, the lower you have this, the smaller the objects that will be rendered by distant land. I used to have this set to 10, and you could tell a difference, but it made me lag and it wasn't really worth it. I have it set to 100 now. If you can, try 50 or 75, but 100 seems to work, and as you can tell by my videos, it doesn't look half bad. So besides the static size and the grass density, which is just preference there, obviously the lower on the grass density, the better frames you'll be getting. Besides those two, make sure you have everything else the same way that I have it here. You're going to notice that a error will pop up. You should not have this error pop up when you're doing it. I accidentally deleted my water.dds, and I do have the 32. Basically, the water.dds is all 32 water texture files mixed together in one. I deleted that because I was trying to fix my water at one time, and so I have the 32 files separately, and it still seems to work even without the DDS file and just the 32 waters. Regardless, you shouldn't have this error pop up when it does. And yeah, so no errors should be here if you do everything correctly, which is not really easy to do, especially if you're just starting, but you will get it eventually. I have a warning down here. It's for miscellaneous item replacer. It's the only warning I have, and it doesn't affect anything, so yeah, you don't really want too many warnings there. Make sure if you have some, you know what they are, and you look them up if you don't, and you get them fixed. And here's the warning I have. See, it's for poorly placed object fix. It's a non-fatal error, and it doesn't seem to mess with anything, so I'm not too worried about it. Finally, we have the distant land tab. Obviously, make sure use distant land is checked on. These are the settings I use. They're by far not the best, and most of these are preference. Draw cells, or draw distance and measured in cells. I believe vanilla Morrowind was 4 cells of draw distance. That's how far you could see before it became just fog. 13, you see pretty damn far. It's all preference. Some people prefer the mystery of Morrowind and the fact that the world seems quote-unquote larger when you have the draw distance lower. So I wouldn't go any higher than 13. Actually, I probably wouldn't even go any higher than 12. 12 seems to be good enough to where you can't. I mean, it looks good. If you could see farther than that, then it would look unnatural. So 13 works for me. Anything lower, you know, you do it because you're getting an FPS hit, or because you need to fix your FPS, or because you prefer the lower cells from how Morrowind used to be. Shader model, I use 3.0. It seems to make the water look a lot better. These are my distance statics for far, very far, and near. Obviously, the lower you set these, the better, but then again, FPS hits. So that's what I use. I used to use 10, 100, and 300, I think, and setting them to what they are now does not seem to be that much graphically different, and it's giving me at least 10, 20 FPS difference doing that. So just mess with it. Water, make sure you have these set on. Blur reflections you can turn on if you want. That's preference. I think the reflections in the water look blurry enough without it, and obviously it saves you some FPS. Dynamic ripples, have them turned on. Hideaways is supposed to be between 30 and 50. I find anything above 35 to be really ridiculous, and I think 20 is the sweet spot. That's personally just my preference. Caustic intensity, anything between 30 and 50 seems to work. Anything over 50 makes the water look, or I should say anything over 55 makes the water look too chaotic to me, and I like it a little more peaceful looking. Options should look like this. Weather settings, I have just left at default, so I'm not even going to bother opening that. And I hope this helps you guys with your MGE if you're having problems. But obviously this is not the best settings you can use. These are just my personal settings. I just hope it helps some people. Maybe maybe they like how I have it set up and they want it exactly like mine. Maybe they're just completely lost. I will try and answer any questions I can about MGE if you have them, but I'll probably direct you to the forums in Bethesda, because they have a big MGE thread there that gets updated all the time, and people there are way more knowledgeable than myself. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and happy modding.